Good evening, Cheeseheads, and welcome to our live reaction from the Frankfurt game. I'll be your host tonight, Gibbo. Along with me, all the way from Vienna, we've got HG. How was that, mate?
I mean, since I support both teams to some extent, it was kind of awkward, but it was good because I am than Frankfurt, obviously. So, well, I've had worse nights supporting Tottenham. That was pretty good.
Good man. And new, joining us for the very first time tonight from our patron group is Jack from all the way from North Carolina. How are you, Jack? All right, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. I'm glad that's over. I was not as confident as HG. I was pretty sure that we were going to give up that third one. There was no doubt in my mind. So I'm glad to get through that one.
Oh, mate, don't be like that. Anyway, let's get in. So first of all, we haven't really got a run sheet or any agenda. So what we'll start with the team news. Back to 4-3-3. I thought we'd do that when we spoke on Monday night. I thought that's what Conte would revert to. What did you think, Jack? Happy with that starting lineup?
I wasn't surprised a bit. I would have been shocked, particularly since we're going against a 4-3-4. That's when we definitely line up best. So the only question was going to be Cess or Perisic from my mind. Other than that, I thought the team was going to pick itself. There was no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, and what about you, HG? Starting 11, what were your thoughts on it?
I don't like 3-4-3. I really don't. Obviously, it worked out tonight, but it just doesn't feel like it's the best use of our resources. But
against the 3-4-3, it works pretty well for them, I guess.
Yeah, and that's just it. That when I realized later on, like when you talk about the Chelsea game where we've struggled, and the other games where we've struggled, where teams have packed midfield and they played three at the back, but Frankfurt didn't do that, and so it worked. It basically became So and Roda against Bentingo and Højbjerg, and we won that battle easily.
Yeah.
But it's I guess I panic when I think that teams are going to flood the midfield and our two won't cope. But tonight, Frank didn't do that, and it turned out well for us.
Yeah, I mean, Frankfurt just go toe to toe with you, don't they? Really, that's what with Spurs lining up like that. That's basically what the game turned into. But I thought he'd bring Emerson straight back in. Were you surprised, HG, that he brought Emerson in? I mean, I think you'd have preferred someone else there, but surprised?
Yeah, I'd have preferred it. I mean, am I surprised? No, because he's played Emerson Royal pretty much consistently since he joined Spurs, and that's been a year now. So I just it's strange when I'm watching it on German commentary, and obviously they're very pro Frankfurt for the game, and even they're like, if Emerson Royal was any good or was good going forward, Spurs would be a much more. And when everyone can see it, and it's just kind of it's tough to watch it because again he didn't do badly. He's not a bad player.
No,
but for what we want him to do, it's just not his game. It's a game try. It's like watching me play football, really. I could try, and I might do one or two decent things in a game, but chances are I'd make more mistakes. And that seems to be what Emerson's MO is.
So what about you, Jack? So we've got, obviously the starting lineup comes up. Was there anything different you'd like to have seen in it?
Well, I like everyone with Emerson. I mean, I'm convinced if you're not a Spurs fan, he's probably a lot of fun to watch. But as a Spurs fan, I'm sorry. It's painful. I mean, he gives it a go. I don't doubt his heart. I don't doubt his effort. I don't know how it is that we got three Brazilians on the squad, and I feel that Lucas is still the most technically gifted. And I just don't know. It's just amazing to me. So yeah, I would prefer not to see him in. If we had a choice, and Conte, I guess he knows what he's doing. I'm not going to question him, obviously, but I prefer not to see him play in that role at all. In a 4, he's fine, but not as a wingback. Just doesn't work.
Yeah. So obviously slow start. I thought obviously Dyer gives that, gets booked early doors, and then a few minutes later, trying to play in our area, bad touch. I think I saw somebody actually saying it wasn't Dyer's poor touch; it was a bad ball from Romero, and I'm just like, not having that. But yeah, HG, it was a clusterfuck, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is it. Dyer's touch wasn't perfect, right? And unfortunately, when you play like that, your centre backs need to have perfect touches most of the time. But of course, it had to be Lindstrom that was closing him down, who's the fastest player on the pitch. And so Lindstrom is on you in a flash. Dyer doesn't get it right. And I mean, I suppose we should be lucky that Dyer didn't dive into the challenge because I thought he was going to. After that, it became, Eintracht just playing the ball well to find the man in space. They had a couple of chances to shoot before they did. But when Roda had the ball and then just found Kamada, it was obvious what was going to happen from there. But it's a rough one because, Spurs at the back, like Longley is decent on the ball, Romero is decent on the ball, Dyer is decent, but I only trust two of them under pressure. And Dyer's not that one. Dyer's the one that I don't trust under pressure. So if I was trying to to close anyone down, or who was going to be my trigger point for Spurs, it would be Dyer, right? Like, you allow Romero to have the ball, allow Longley to have the ball because they're better with it. But when Dyer, if you think you can press, because it's just his thing, really. He likes to have a bit more time, and top quality players like Lindstrom, they won't give you that time.
Yeah. So, Jack, it was just like the first 15. We sort of tried to come out the traps fast, didn't we? But we just we didn't get going. It wasn't really until that goal happened that it sort of fired us up. We were sort of all over the place, weren't we? The first 15 minutes.
Yeah, and the American broadcasters who are also very pro-German were really, really impressed with Frankfurt, but they're really impressed when anyone has possession and gets shots away. So, it was clear they were a little slow to start, but that's not unusual. And I really wasn't worried about after the goal. I knew that team, you could get at them. So I wasn't really all that concerned. And I thought the response was excellent. Yeah, the first 15 was slow, but the response was on. They were really on it.
Yeah, I think I saw a stat that was like Eintracht had 4 shots and 1 on target, and we hadn't had any shots at all. And I didn't think we'd played terribly, but it was just at that moment they were much more effective. When they went forward, they looked a threat, and they were shooting and testing Lloris. And Spurs, until we got that goal, really hadn't done much to test Kevin Trapp.
No. Yeah, and I just sort of thought the first 15 minutes, like the ball was going in. Son was having it wasn't playing bad, like you said, but some heavy touches in good positions, and it's sort of the play was breaking down around Richarlison a bit in that first 15, and Kane wasn't really at it. So I thought the defence, and apart from obviously the blip we had, but the defenders were doing okay. The midfield was doing a decent job, and the wing backs, to be fair. But it was just as soon as it was going forward, it was breaking down, wasn't it? We just weren't we were a bit sort of sloppy in possession, the front three.
I feel like it was similar to last week. I mean, the game last week in Frankfurt, there weren't a huge amount of chances for either side, but we weren't able to really get the ball up front and have it stick. Right? Like Hasabi won the battle with Kane last week, and Kane won the battle tonight, and that's why we scored 3. I mean, to me, Kane is the biggest reason why we scored those 3 goals. Not only did he get, he won the penalty and scored it, but he turned Hasabi to put Son through for the equaliser.
Yeah,
and it does feel as if a 3-4-3, more than anything, a 3-4-3 really does depend on our ability to turn with the ball, to find people in possession. Kulusevski can help Kane.
Yep.
Yeah. When Kulusevski's not there, it's only Kane.
Yeah.
Richarlison doesn't feel comfortable on that side of the pitch to hold the ball up, even though he can.
Yeah.
It was a bit awkward. And it just felt that today, because Kane won the battle with Hasabi, we were able to, suddenly we saw the sun that we know we can see. It was,
And there was that one moment where Kane actually pushes and runs around Hasabi, and I was like, okay, he finally found the 38-year-old guy who's actually slower than he is. That was great. I mean, he doesn't try that in the league at all, but man, he just saw the guy and lined him up. It was great.
So I'm taking him on. Yeah, it was a weird performance because I feel like the midfield 2 for Spurs were pretty good. I think
thought they were fantastic.
Højbjerg had a very good game.
As you
assisted.
Yes, right, the third. Yeah, it was Højbjerg. But again, I think a lot of their strength comes from when we start higher up the pitch.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, because Frankfurt never really had the possession too much, we weren't defending deeply. And so because we weren't defending deeply, then suddenly the effect that Højbjerg can have, like when he won the ball high up the pitch, when Richarlison was taken out, but it went to Højbjerg, suddenly it was a case of, all right, we're on the edge of the area. We can do something with this. And for a lot of the season, he's been winning it maybe 35 yards from his own goal, not 25 yards from theirs. So I do feel like our starting position as a team matters a great deal. People might say that Conte is a counter-attacking side, but we just don't have the players to play that way, really. It's just Kane and Son's pace. Yeah. And I feel like the whole team looks better when we do play higher up the pitch.
Yeah, well, that's sort of like what we were doing at the end of last season a little bit more, wasn't it? When Romero was sort of playing really well, he sort of pushed up the pitch higher. And when he does that, we do tend to play better. He tends to start more attacks by playing higher up the pitch. But yeah, so 1-0 down. We sort of started to up our game, and really, like, Son's first goal was just like well, obviously Kane got the ball, turned to CB, and then really it was a really simple goal, wasn't it? In the end, good run from Son, but he didn't have to do anything intelligent, or he just literally ran straight through and slotted it in the bottom corner.
Yeah, but given his form recently, I was a little worried that he was going to overthink that, but he didn't. He found the ball at his feet, had a whole side of the goal open, and just passed it in confidently. And really, after that, you could just see the spring in his step. I mean, he was up and all over the place. There was a nice turn he had later after that. Didn't come to anything, but he just really, really felt it. And that that third goal is an example of just like vintage Son. I mean, it's not quite as simple as the goal against Dortmund that time at Wembley, but it's just a confident volley that he lined up and took straight in. And when he looks like that, he's got confidence, and that's a good sign. So we need that.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, he's obviously Son hasn't been great lately, but like you said, that look. But as the game wore on, I thought, like, his finish, he did look more confident. He looked like the old. He looked a little bit more like the old Son, didn't he, HG? I think he could still, little bits and pieces still didn't come off for him. A few little decisions where he's held on to the ball too long or took a bad touch, but it looked more like the Son we want to see, didn't it?
It's interesting. Like, I always feel that with the way that if Spurs are playing a 3-4-3, if you're a centre-back on Son, you get as tight as possible, right? Because you can kind of smother him. He doesn't want the ball to his feet with his back to goal. So if you can stay there and make it difficult for him, he doesn't know where to go. And there are times today where Eintracht did that, and they got numbers around him and they made it difficult for him. But I don't feel as if they did it anywhere as much as they should. For the goal that Son scored in the first half, the first one, he's kind of running behind Hasebe, and Son's here. And you're thinking, but he's the man you need to worry about. Kane's not going to score from 40 yards. He's going to try and pass it. Like, relatively basic stuff. Did they watch Spurs play at all over the last 2.5 years to see that's what we do? So, like, I feel like Son's performance today was obviously much better.
Yeah.
But I don't feel as if Frankfurt did enough to stop it. And when they did get tighter in the second half, the guy gets 2 yellow cards and is off. So you've got to be smarter. And Frankfurt really weren't smart enough to deal with Son. And once Son's got his tail up, well, we all know how the quality he's got.
Yeah, he's a different kettle of fish then, isn't he? But I mean, we sort of started getting on the game, didn't we? I thought Bentancur, like you said, Bentancur and Højbjerg were really good. We started really pushing. And then obviously Kane, to be fair, the work he did before that penalty was fantastic, wasn't it? I mean, blatant penalty. I don't know why it took the ref so long, but
yeah,
blatant penalty, good work beforehand.
Did you guys think it was a penalty in real time when you were watching the game?
No question.
Yeah, I did, to be fair. He's wiped him, hasn't he?
Outside the box, it's called 99 times out of 100 without even thinking. Not even a question.
Yeah. No, it's weird. Like, I felt the same. Like, I screamed penalty. Yep. And then when I saw the replay, I was like, okay, well, he doesn't really make a challenge for the ball, but he does kind of, lean into him. But you're right, Jack. It would be a foul anywhere else on the pitch. I can see why the ref didn't give it, because there wasn't a massive contact of legs, which you might be looking for. But Jakic has no interest in playing the ball. He's just trying to lean into Harry and knock him over. And Harry's not stupid. Right. Like, of course, he's going to fall over and make it look probably worse than it was. And so when you see Jakic, afterwards, kind of telling him to get up, like, you understand that, but he's not gone for the ball. He's just trying to play the man and push him off the ball, and that's a foul. So I was happy when they overturned it, but I was really kind of surprised that they did. The referee seemed, the referee seemed a little bit like, hang on, I'm in charge here. Like,
he had a weird one, the ref, didn't he, tonight? I thought
he was much better than last week's. Last week's was awful. So like it's kind of swings and roundabouts, but
I just some of it. I was just. We'll get onto the CB thing later, but so obviously penalty, Kane steps up. I was about to say then you pretty much put your mortgage on him scoring, but obviously we'll talk about that later. But decent penalty, Spurs go 2-1 up. Ever in doubt, Jack?
No, I was confident. I was a little surprised that he went high. I'm glad he did, because Trapp is an excellent goalkeeper. I mean, that he anyone who watched him in the Europa last season knows he was key to getting them as deep as they did, and but he didn't leave it to doubt. I mean, you put it that high, it doesn't have to be in the corner. It just has to be good spot, good pace, and again, no doubt. So yeah, I wasn't worried about that one. But
no, well, but HG, you must have been confident when he stepped up, say that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect Kane to miss. I know he's had one saved already this season, but I feel like with Kane, like every now and again, one will get saved, right?
Yeah.
Like the one at Liverpool a few years ago when Karius just stood in the middle of the goal and saved it. Like they do happen, but yeah, like it's about the most certain thing in football, Kane and penalties. I know it sounds weird to say that after he missed the second one, but like generally speaking, I don't know too many people who are better at penalties than he is in world football. So you do expect the net to bulge when we get one. But yeah, it was the 2-1 was super important because it came quite quickly after the equaliser as well. So like even though Frankfurt were ahead, they were only ahead for maybe 8 or 9 minutes. We got the equaliser and then we got the second quite quickly. And so you've played half an hour, suddenly you're up. And you can imagine Eintracht are thinking, okay, this is not going how we want it to go. And Spurs, no, we've got 15 minutes to try and kill the game, which basically is what we did. We killed it in those final 15 minutes to get the third.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously we pushed on then, and like the third goal was a great finish by Son. Brilliant work from Højbjerg out wide. Got obviously there's a poor sort of was it a poor touch or a flick by Richarlison? What do you think it was, or was it like just a mishmash of both?
Go on, Jack.
The pass was off. The pass was off, and so Richie has to dive for it, and that broke up the defender trying to make a play on it, and it played back to him, which then he took deep. So I mean, I think it was just a misplayed pass and a kind of a jumble, and he just picked the ball back up, went to the byline.
Went to the byline, obviously pulled it back, put it into space, and that's a great finish by Son, isn't it? Supposedly weaker foot.
What I love about that is just the patience he shows. He doesn't panic. He's cool, calm, collected, and waits for the play to develop and the space to open up. Son's just sitting right there and just floats it. I mean, it really is. He doesn't get enough credit off. He does all the work, the dirty work, but when he gets the opportunity, he's class. I really think he is, and you can see it when he plays for Denmark. He does the same thing.
I know Gibbo loves him, right? He's your man, isn't he, Højbjerg?
No, obviously
you can say yes. He's playing well.
Yeah, but I do. Yes. I do. I think he's fantastic. I think there's a lot more to his game than what people were thinking, and I think like more so this season, he's starting to. When he gets up the pitch a little bit higher, he's starting to contribute a bit more. But he's got that in his locker, as we saw in the Euros for Denmark. And I just think he gets a lot of unfair stick. I think he was pretty much ran into the ground under Jose to the point where he was just completely fucked. And like now, I think he is our most important midfielder. Bentancur's a great player, lovely on the ball, but he's Conte's man. Well, whoever is in charge, he's their man in the middle of the park. And he gets a lot of unfair stick. Corley give him some shit at the start of the season, but I was like, that's another assist, isn't it? I said he's going to have more. I guarantee at the end of the season, he'll have more appearances, more goals, more assists than any other midfielder. And so far, I'm right.
Yeah, exactly. We'll clip that bit, right? We'll delete the so far, and we'll just be like, and I'm right. But no, it's strange because, like, I mean, Højbjerg, when he was in position to cross the ball, like you could look into the box. We had 2 or 3 people to aim at, but it was clear that Son was free, and so not only was able to play the pass, but he found the right person. Like I thought it was interesting when you looked at the replay to see Sessegnon had basically taken the wing back with him, right?
Yeah.
So usually you'd expect the wing back to cover whoever was coming back to the far post, but because Sessegnon had made that run, he had no choice. He had to follow Sessegnon because he would have been closer to goal, and it left Son in acres of space. So again, like it's one of those like what are the defenders thinking? Like I can understand your focus is Harry Kane, but it's not as if it's Kane plus Lucas or Kane plus Lamela. Like Son scores 20 goals a season, guaranteed. You've got to be aware of that. And to be honest, I didn't think he was going to score. Certainly not first time. You've always got those moments of like, he's going to sky this, he's going to shin it. But he connected perfectly, and the goalkeeper's got no chance. Yeah. When you hit it that well from 12 yards, keeper's got no chance. And at 3-1, you did think, with Conte's record as a manager in general, if you're up at half time, you win the game, right? So at 3-1 at halftime, I thought this is done. Like even if Frankfurt got the next goal, I still thought Spurs would have enough to see out the game.
It sounds ridiculous, say, Jack, doesn't it? But I thought obviously you're 3-1 up, and I think one more, stating the obvious, one more kills this game. This game over, and we had the chance where I think it was Emerson got the ball out wide, just needed to put it across, and the defender got in. Romero had a header. End of the half, we ended the half strongly, didn't we?
Quite.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were definitely pushing on to try and kill that game off, and I thought that again, you got to credit Trapp's just a good goalkeeper. He kept them in it even at the end with that last save on I mean, it just really I thought they were going to kill it then, but yeah, they pushed well and they finished strong, which has not always been the case. So it's really good to see. As I said, the response to going down 1-0 was really encouraging. It really was.
So we go in 3-1 up, happy days. Come out the second half, and we start the second half reasonably quick, didn't we? HG, you know, sometimes we come out in the second half and it's a bit of a plod and a bit of a let's work our way into this game, but we sort of came out with a bit of intent, didn't we, to try and kill the game off, I suppose.
Well, I mean, what was nice about tonight was the fact that the crowd, like, although I think the crowd would have expected a win at that point, they weren't just watching the game; they were still there as well. So in the crowd, like, because there are times at Spurs where the crowd think the game's done, and it can kind of transmit itself to the players. But I still think a lot of Spurs fans were thinking, okay, we're in a good position, but it's not over. And so the players kind of, I think they felt that too. So yeah, there were a couple of chances. I think Sessegnon had one where in the end it was a decent recovery tackle, I think, from Jakic to get there just in time. But we had moments at the start of the second half where you thought, right, like we're still playing quite well. We're still effective because again, personally, I don't think Spurs were great tonight. I think we were decent and good.
Yeah,
but it wasn't our best game by any means. I just feel like. I mean, I was looking at the Eintracht Frankfurt kind of chat groups at halftime because obviously they're 3-1 down to see what they were thinking, and most of them were just like, "This team is too good." Like it was like basically the German would be like, "They're einfach eine Nummer zu groß." Like we're not good enough for the Champions League yet. We don't have the squad for the Champions League yet. So these results are going to happen. They were quite sanguine about it, and so I just feel that like it's 3-1 up. You've got a couple more chances. The Frankfurt team is probably thinking, we've got our best available team, but it's not our best team by any means. Maybe 3-1 felt too much for them as well, but we certainly had chances at the start of the second half to get the fourth.
But and this, like Jack, this isn't me sort of being negative, but obviously we'll come on to what's happening towards the end of the game. But when you sort of get up to that top level, you've got to kill that, like in that position. And even so, they have the bloke sent off. But those games, you've got to kill those games off, haven't you? Like, I know they come back into it, but you can't be allowing that to happen, can you? When you're in that ascendancy, that's when you got to put your foot on the throat and choke them, innit?
Yeah, no, you that's what you want. And back to what you were saying with like the Sessegnon chance. I mean, again, I make it sound like Trapp's agent here, but that was a hand save. I mean, the defender got the tackle in, but it's still going to the goal. If he's not falling away and put his hand up, that's the goal. We had a lot of good opportunities to put the game away. And then it seemed to just kind of, once the subs started coming in, it just started, the whole field changed, the flow of the game and everything started changing. And I thought, okay, we can see this out really easily.
Yeah.
And they weren't really pushing any longer. And that's, of course, like to your point, if you don't put it away, then you give the other team a chance. You have that, a poor play by our best friend Emerson at right back, and they get the corner, and there's confusion on who's getting marked, and voila, now you got a nail biter again. So it's fortunate. So
with right, Sessegnon's chance. Am I being too critical here? But do you think he could have gone in a little bit more full pout and gone, I'm going to win that ball? Real desire, get there before the defender and get some on it. Or do you think it's just, when I watched Sessegnon, I thought he did all right tonight. I thought he did all right at times. And then towards the end of the game, I thought he was getting beat relatively easy and turned and didn't really do a lot. So I think when you get something really good out of Sessegnon, then you always sort of come away feeling there's something more to come from him. Do you think he could have gone in for that, just gone at that little bit harder, or do you think that's just a bit too harsh?
I don't know. It might be a little harsh. It's hard. I'd have to see it back again. I didn't get the feel that he was not going all into it. I just think he, had two players coming on to him, and he, again, except for a probably good glove save, it's probably in the back of the net. So I don't fault him there, but I do get your meaning with him. I feel like I'm always waiting for him to come out, always waiting for him to explode. This player that I think is there, but yet game after game doesn't seem to occur. Solid, gives great effort, don't question his heart. But I keep thinking there's more there to the game, and it just never really materializes. He's reliable, but again, I don't see him as he's at this point. I don't see he's the left wing back that you want for a title challenge. So, maybe the player's still in Italy. I don't know.
But you sort of are of that opinion, aren't you, HG, with regarding Sessegnon? I mean, you probably think I've gone a bit too Roy Keane with that chance. Like, you should have just gone in there full-blooded, but...
I think that, if we're going to be, if we're going to try and be fair to Sessegnon, like, I do genuinely agree with you, Gibbo, on this, and same with you. Like, I think he's good, but in no way has he shown to be great at anything yet, sadly. If you're looking at the chance, obviously it's not just Jakic that comes from behind him that wins the ball. There's also the defender trying to come across. So if I'm Sessegnon, I'm thinking, well, I don't want to get clattered from this guy. Because, I mean, he probably is thinking that. He doesn't want to get clattered. Right? That seems to be very much his thing. It's like, I play the game, but I don't really use my body too much. I don't really know how to do that. I want the ball at my feet in a bit of space. So if he's seeing the defender come across, he's thinking, I'll wait a little bit. And because of that, like, he doesn't see the guy behind him. And the guy behind him can come, not even from the side, but he just gets there first. And you're right. So if you're thinking, I've got a guy here and a guy there, I'm willing to allow to be taken out, right? I'm going to put myself in harm's way so I get to the ball first. And there are times when you think that's probably not what he would prefer. Like, it's not that he's weak, because, we've all played football. None of us like being involved in meaty challenges, really. You get the odd weirdo who loves it, but generally speaking, we'd like to, we want to play football and not get clattered. And I just think Sessegnon, at the highest level, you have to think the team comes first, and that's in the mind. And I think with Sessegnon, it's all in the mind. Like, we saw him play, was it Mura last year, where he got sent off after like 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Because two challenges where he put himself about and then suddenly he's off. Yeah. So you understand the kind of, like, do I or don't I? But when you're 6 yards out and the only bad thing is that you might get clattered, go for it. Get yourself in there and go get clattered. Like, you don't want to clatter someone else, but it's a mind thing. I really believe that.
I didn't think he was that bad today. There's always something whenever I watch Sessegnon, I come away thinking there's more to come. But I've been thinking that for sort of like for months and months. Do you know what I mean? It's just, but he was. I mean, we'll probably get into it after the game, but the two wing backs are not problem positions because they're not awful, but they are an easily upgradable. They're two easily upgradable positions for us, aren't they? They just.
Jack talked about the guy who's in Italy, Udogi. Yeah, however, watching him, he already looks better. And I realize Serie A is a different league, and I know all those things that it may not kind of transfer as easy as you want it to, but he just looks in control of the ball whenever he has it. And there are some players that have that ability. Yeah. Some are worried about their touch, and some are not. Yeah. And I feel like Sessegnon is a bit worried about the control, and this other guy isn't.
And Udogi looks like the type of kid who don't give a fuck if he's got to put himself in harm's way. Do you know what I mean? If that ball's there, he's going in 100%.
No, I've seen at least one goal that he scored this season where he was at the back post and just got there.
Yeah,
he's getting in there.
Yes.
But I mean, it's weird because we all know that there is a player in Sessegnon. Like, I don't feel
absolutely.
Like he was never worth the 25 mil that we spent because he hadn't proven it in the Premier League. He got relegated once,
right?
And that was really what we saw. And it's been difficult because we've had so many managers, and he got shipped to Hoffenheim, and he's still just 22. But when you look at someone like, another 22-year-old, someone like Reece James, who's 22 and does the same job on the other side, one looks as if they belong at that level. When I saw that Reece James was 22, I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, I didn't.
I thought he was much older than that.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't realize that until you said it.
So it feels as if that is Sessegnon's thing. Like the left wing back is probably his best position, because I don't think he has the tricks to be a winger, and I don't think he has the awareness to be a defender.
Yeah.
But if he wasn't homegrown, I think he would be out the door.
But here's another one then. I like Perisic. Perisic is a better footballer than Sessegnon all day long, but he hasn't really lived up to like what I expected from him. I don't know whether playing wing back in Serie A or playing over here is different. But do you think, Jack, who would you have out the two, Sessegnon or Perisic?
Well, it definitely depends on the opponent that we're playing and what formation you're up. But just knowing nothing, I feel more comfortable with Perisic just because going forward, he's more confident. To your point, I like your way you phrase it. You know, he's worried about his touch. Perisic is not. Cess always seems like he's, you know, he's not confident in traffic, and he's hesitant. But Perisic is not. He's not a great one-on-one defender. I'd rather, you know, Cess when we know we're going to be sitting back and playing a little deeper. But Perisic, yeah, he hasn't set the world on fire, but he's still delivered some great balls. He's got 3 assists in the league, I think, at this point already, and how many minutes? So I feel like over time he's going to deliver. I'm not really worried about Perisic this year.
Yeah, and you know how we talked earlier about us playing higher up the pitch, right? Like we've done that in the last few games, and that suits Perisic much more.
Yeah.
Because then he's going to get the ball in wide areas and find half a yard to whip the ball in. Like, you know, you want him to take corners, if nothing else, right? Because we know that he can do that so well. So it's a case of, you know, kind of horses for courses. Who are you playing? You know, how well are you playing?
And how are you playing?
Yeah, and it's a tough one to kind of dictate before the game. Like you look at Lindstrom down that side and you think he's very fast. Maybe Longley can't cope by himself, or Davies, whoever plays left centre back. So you might need an extra pace. And there were a couple of times where Sessegnon's pace certainly helped in that area. But it just feels that if you've got the ball, like if you're playing against 10 men, right, and you've got 3 centre backs thinking, okay, we can deal with whatever's coming, then you put Perisic on and you say, right, go and attack. Because that should be the perfect situation for him. Against a side that wants to defend or has to defend, then Perisic will be a better option than Sessegnon, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So, saying that, they go down to 10 men. Son, what's the name of the guy who got sent off? Totu, or what was his name? Tuta. Yeah. So 3 minutes, 2 yellow cards. I can't believe he was moaning about the second one, like just in rugby tackled him. But obviously that happens, and you think, right then, time to control the game, don't you? We brought Basuma on then, didn't we? Went 3-5-2, and you think, here we go. We'll see this out. Gaps will open up. Take control. Hopefully get another HG. What happened after that?
Yeah, I mean that's just it, isn't it? Like we had control. 3-5-2. I mean, Sanchez came on for Dyer at some point,
and they put him right. And they put him on the right.
That was interesting. How Romero went into the middle when I was like, just stick Sanchez there. Like all he has to do is just stand there. If the ball comes to him, he can boot it, but nothing else is going on in the brain.
No.
But so we strengthened some areas to weaken others. It was kind of how the substitutes went, and it's a set piece that gave them the second. So I don't feel like it was a formation failure that allowed Frankfurt back into the game. But I certainly felt that we were comfortable at 3-1. We'd have been happy at 3-1, and we didn't feel that Frankfurt were going to get 2 set pieces. Or they were going to have enough chances to get something from the game.
The set piece, though, has come about, hasn't it? Like, I think they nearly, like, when Sanchez and Emerson playing on the right-hand side of a football pitch together is literally hands over your eyes stuff at times, isn't it, Jack? That is what led to their, like, absolutely ridiculous football. Like, to be fair, both of their goals tonight was just shit defending. Sloppy, like Royal Gov says here, look, sloppiness cost us the corner. Absolutely. Too many times he loses the ball or makes the wrong decision. I totally agree. I mean, the sloppiness led to the corner. I've said this to HG before. I feel for the bloke because he's just not up to it, really. He made some cracking tackles tonight, but when we sort of go forward or when we're trying to play, he's fucking awful at times. But that sloppiness, Jack, yeah?
Yeah, that's in
led
fact
to the
that's
goal.
why I say if you're not a Spurs fan, he's probably fun to watch because he did come back from out of nowhere with a flying tackle at the top of the box late in the game where how he didn't get it wasn't a foul, it was a clean tackle, and it was really athletic. But that is what he has to do to overcompensate for the fact that he gives the ball away. He's not confident. Again, he the sloppiness from Dyer. Again, you get that. It just that's why you just sit there and know that no game is ever done. Whenever you're watching this team, you just know you can't be certain that the game's over, and that's just we live with that. I mean, that's just the way we live, and it's unfortunate. But I'm convinced in the corner we had. I really feel like there were at least three defenders within 1 or 2 yards. So I just don't really understand. I want to see it back. I'm gonna watch it later. Is how somebody doesn't get a body on the guy because it's basically a free header. Yet there's 3 defenders right there.
Emerson was one of them. I'm not blaming him for. I can just remember seeing him sort of like all over the place. I'm not blaming him. Don't want to get on at him. I'm just bringing up that he had a few bad moments and he was there when the header went in. But I mean, HG, it's just like we should be. That's what happens when you start making when Spurs make in games like that, make wholesale changes. You know what I mean? That's sort of like what Spurs.
So this is, but we've spent a good couple of months wishing that Conte would make more changes, and now you're sitting there saying we made too many and it upset things.
Yeah,
well, yeah. I mean, like, yine, right? I mean, like, I still think that making the subs was the right call. I don't necessarily agree with putting Romero inside and having Sanchez on the right because, as people have pointed out in the comments, and as we've talked about, like Emerson and Sanchez together. If the opponents want them to have the ball, kick it to them and then we'll press. It's the same trigger point they did on Dyer in the first half with the goal. You want the ball on that side because that's where the mistakes will come. But generally speaking, I didn't hate the changes. I've said this before. I would rather see Brian down the left. I would rather see Lucas down the right. I don't like this inverted nonsense. I understand why it happens, but because again, like, at the end we had Kane plus those two, so we went back to a 3-4-3. It just felt as if, I mean, you look at Conte's record, and certainly in the Premier League, if we're up at halftime, we don't lose, right? And so, like, again, it's that kind of Spursy versus Conte battle that we've talked about before. Which power is stronger? But so it's, we weren't great. I thought Basuma and Skip did all right when they came on. I don't feel they were any worse than the players they replaced. But down to 10, if the opponents are down to 10, like giving them set pieces is pretty much the only way that they can score.
Yeah.
And so we have to be smarter. We have to make better decisions.
Absolutely. It's decisions and stop. And then, obviously, we've given the goal away. On the whole, we've played well, haven't we, tonight? Compared, it's better than what we've seen Tottenham play. I think we've played better. We had better moments. We did make more better decisions than we have been. They score from a sloppy bit of play. We go up the other end. Brian Hill falls over the ball, wins it back, gets into the box, wins a penalty. You think, here we go. Kane 4-2. Normal services resumed. And I think it's in the same place as Chris Waddle's. It's aiming. It's going to meet Chris Waddle's penalty against Italy. Jack, would you have put your mortgage on him putting that one away, mate?
Yeah, I didn't have any. I was actually a little upset that Kane was in the game. I was really thinking, it's like, if we 3-1 against 10 men at home, when are we ever going to get a rest for the guy? I know last time he came out, they gave up a goal to Forest and made that one nervy. But I was like, when are they going to get him some rest? And then we get the penalty. I was like, oh, well, Conte's a genius. He knew that we have a penalty to kill the game. And because if Kane's not on the field, who do you think was going to step in and take that penalty? If you just go through who's on the field at that time, you're not really sure, right? So then he lines up, and I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't know that he could do that if he tried. I mean, that ball was so far over the bar. It was shocking. Only maybe surpassed by the cross that he sent Brian again that should have
Put it on the floor. Put it on the floor.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what
tired. Kane, that you can see in both those is he's exhausted. He's still giving it all, but he's exhausted at that point.
I mean, you said you like the penalties to go eye, Jack, but that is taking the piss, isn't it? That eye. But I mean, yeah. So HG, then I mean, well, you say he's tired. I mean, he skinned that bloke to beat him down the line. Brian Hill's in the middle, and far be it from me to tell Kane what he should be doing. But why is he not rolled it? Well, not rolled it, but why is he not put it on the floor? Why is he like smashed it in the air to like 5'3" Brian Hill? HG, well, what possibly thought that made him think that was the best idea?
Well, when you saw it, like he gets past the guy, you see Brian running in. There's no one near him, and you think, first time,
yeah,
and then he doesn't. He takes the touch. You're thinking, okay, now this really has to be perfect because the guy is getting back, and suddenly there's less space because Gill's getting closer to the goal. But we still had the time to play on the ground, and like I get it. Like I understand maybe why you thought okay, but not high. Like chest height, something where he could probably do something, but you can't expect him to. Like, do you think Brian Hill has ever scored a header in training? Do you know what I mean? It's
not from across it's come at him at about 100 miles an hour.
Quite. So that was a massive missed opportunity, and like it's Kane, right? It's the best Spurs player I've seen, right? I don't really remember Hoddle, but Kane can do it all, right? And yet at that moment. Like, bearing in mind it's his weaker foot and it's the end of the game and he's tired and you still expect it to be 95% perfect and you get annoyed when it's not. That's how good he is. Yeah. But it was a shame because like that should have gone in. The penalty should have gone in. Yeah. But Frankfurt at that point are really chasing it. So it's not an indication of Spurs' play. It's just when you get those opportunities, you have to make them count. And like goal difference doesn't really matter in the Champions League. So I understand that, but still, I want to see Spurs like making good decisions and taking those chances
and killing it off.
Yeah. We're still sort of at that part. I thought like tonight was better. Like I said, I think we made better decisions. We started to play better, but there's still a little bit more to come. I think there's still a few little things we need to iron out. But Jack, I mean, it's ended up it's sort of nervy, and we're bringing up these things, but it should never have been like that, should it? Really, in the end, it's a game we should have been in control. We were totally in control of. Should have made it a lot more comfortable. And at the end of the day, we're all 90% of Spurs fans would have been going, they're going to equalise. This is it. We're going to draw this 3-3. They've gone down to 10 men. I know what's going to happen. Everybody was saying the same thing, I bet.
Yeah, no, I mean, and they should have killed it off. And I will say word for Brian. I mean, there were a couple of moments, just like in the Frankfurt game before, you can see the player there. And I was glad to see him. I was really hoping he was. When I saw him get that break, I was like, "Oh, just roll it to him, and he gets a goal, and that would be wonderful for him." But I do want to give a shout to Hugo though, because it hasn't gone. I noticed a couple times he had a great save. I'm not sure who it was. Was it Lindstrom or somebody else?
Yeah, it was Lindstrom. Yeah.
I mean, it was a really phenomenal save. And then in the first half or was it in the second half? He gets one on his near post. The shot comes out of nowhere.
That was the first half.
And
Lundstrom.
No, if he's got a weakness, particularly the near post is he's giving up some bad goals there. So, and then late in the game, he's coming up big. So I mean, he had a really sharp game. I mean, he had that. The one thing I almost feel like, was there a weird thing going on with the balls, the bounces in that game? Do you remember a number of really weird, like late in the game, Hugo?
Yeah, Trapp. Was it Trapp? He sort of caught one that went really high, didn't he? Or was that just
Son's head? There were a lot of weird bounces in that game, but no. Other than that one dodgy moment at the end, there, I thought Hugo was very solid and was big for us. Could have been a much different game if he had not been on it.
I mean, we've come through the game. We've, he looks a tidy player, doesn't he?
I think we all agree on this.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm looking at forwards, I think we've said it before. I think the same as you, HG. I like Richarlison, but like the quality and the class Kulusevski's got in that position, we need a bit of backup for that, don't we? Because like you said, if Kulusevski's not there, that type of play is all on Kane all the time. He's the one who's going to do it. But we need a couple more options, you know, people of that ilk, don't we?
I mean, I certainly think one or a better option. Like to me, Lucas can only really do one thing, and Brian, to be fair, is probably similar, right? But when Richarlison can cover two positions, weirdly, not the one he's actually covering.
It's his worst position, probably.
Yeah. So if you could find someone to play on that side, then you think, okay, if our five were, you know, Kane, Son, Kulusevski, Richarlison, and Lindstrom, then you're thinking, okay, we've got balance everywhere. This idea that Richarlison can play down the right, like he can, and he did all right today. Certainly, there was one moment, I think it was the Sessegnon chance, where he skinned Ndicka and he won the ball basically just from sheer willpower. But it doesn't seem to. He doesn't seem to work his best, do his best stuff down the right hand side.
No.
So it's interesting. Like, you know, we're winning games, right? We've won a lot of games already this season, but at very few points have we all thought, man, Spurs are playing well.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's individual quality that's getting us there, and a bit of luck in a couple of games, but individual quality. And so tonight, yes, you know, we saw, you know, Kane set up Son for a couple of goals, or like, you know, we saw Spurs that maybe we remember back in April, but it to me at least, it never felt like it was Spurs that were doing this. It was it was kind of a combination. Like we were taking advantage of the other team not playing well, but it wasn't like, hey, Spurs are on it tonight. We 3-2. Weirdly enough, I felt like 3-2 wasn't that unfair of a scoreline. 3-1 probably would have been a better reflection.
Yeah.
But you know, set pieces can hurt you, and we never really defended that well against set pieces this season.
Yeah, I suppose it's just like, you know, seeing games out. I've never really, in all my time supporting Spurs, we've never been over the years a great team at sort of seeing a game out, have we? And I think when, you know, that second half, really, we needed to go and get that fourth, and even go and get a fifth if you can. I know that's like it's probably being greedy, but I like Spurs on the front foot. That's what I like. That's when I feel comfortable, when we're 5 or 6-1 up. So, but
comfortable 5 or 6-1 up.
Yeah. So right then, we've seen it through. More nervy than we wanted it to be. Man of the match, Jack. Who candidates and who you giving it to?
I think. I mean, Hugo had a great game, but I'd say on balance, it's probably got to go to Harry. I mean, even though he with a little leggy at the end there. I mean, to your point, he got shut out in the game at Frankfurt by his way, and he won the battles, and he made the critical. The link up play was better. He was finding things, you know, finding space, playing balls on. I'd have to give it to him on balance. I don't know that anyone was huge, but I think I'd give it to him.
HG.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to go back to this comment that someone put towards the beginning of the stream. I think that's probably fair, right? Son scores 2 goals. That should give you a pretty good shot at man of the match. Kane is the reason that we scored 3, as far as I'm concerned, and Højbjerg was the center of everything.
Yeah.
So like, it's a tough one. Like I guess I want to give it to the midfield player because the goal scorers are there to score goals.
Right. Yeah.
But Kane being the fact that, you know, nothing happens for Spurs unless Kane is involved. And it's probably Kane and Højbjerg, to be fair, they're the 2 most important players that we have right now, because Højbjerg is guaranteed to give you everything you kind of want in midfield. The question is where is he going to do it? What part of the pitch? And Kane, 8 goals in 9 league games? I mean, like it's completely being overshadowed because no one's really talking about it. But any other season, you'd be thinking, a goal again? What the heck?
Yep. And
he got, you know, could have had I always forget. He got 1 tonight. Should have had 2 with the second penalty. Yeah. Kane is there, and compared to last week, Kane was getting frustrated with Hasebe. Hasebe was getting tight, and again they were nobbling him like they did tonight. They were trying to kick him, but whereas last week's ref just allowed it to happen, this week's ref didn't. Right? I mean, Hasebe could have been sent off easily as well.
He should have. I think. I thought then the ref sort of bottled this, and now they're going to get him off to save him from being sent off.
And it wasn't even for that challenge on Son that we all thought should have been it. He could have been off for the challenge on Kane that was about 10 seconds prior to that. So I mean, I think I saw it in the Sporting game tonight. Sporting had 2 players sent off.
Oh, did they?
I think so. Yeah.
I know they had 1.
Yeah, so it just felt like, you know, we've had 2 games at home in the Champions League. Both teams have had a player sent off, and pretty much because of Son, both occasions.
Yeah.
So like having him there is super important. But for tonight, I think it has to be Kane. It has to be Kane.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Kane's pivotal to the scoring goals. He is the creative spark, isn't he? But obviously. And it sounds bad, but you know, like I said, I think Son, the goal was fantastic. First goal was a lovely finish, and he was playing better. But I think there's still more to come from Son. He's still not at the top of his game, but and Højbjerg. But I thought Bentancur had a decent game as well. I thought he pressed and he's so calm on the ball. But a mention for Bentancur and Højbjerg, because they've pretty much played every game this season, and they have to get through some work in the middle of midfield. And I think the last few games they've been superb. They look like they've been getting stronger. So
people talked about Bissouma coming into the team from the first game of the season. And I think we sat here on the show and thought, no. Like, do we not remember how good Højbjerg and Bentancur were at the end of last season? Yeah. And I think they've proven still that despite Bissouma is clearly a good individual player, same as Skip. Yeah. And I know Skip's had injury issues too, but that too is set. Like no matter what, the question is, do we supplement them or not?
Yeah.
Right. But it's always going to be, if they're fit, those two are going to start, especially big games. And Champions League at home, these are the games you have to win. They're going to play those games. So it does feel that we've got fantastic options, because I think Sarr is going to be a really good player, and he's played maybe 20 minutes for Spurs so far this season. So I just think like centre midfield, I think we're pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Up front, we're not far off. At centre back, there's probably a couple.
Thereabout.
Can we talk about Longley? Because I genuinely think that I know that we wanted to go out and spend 60 million on Bastoni, right? Clearly, that's what Conte wanted to do. But Longley on loan has done absolutely nothing wrong.
That's right.
He's doing exactly what he's.
Yeah, it's a fantastic signing. That's what you wanted him to do. You wanted him to come in and look like he belongs at that level, which he does. Whether it's Premier League or Champions League, he's come in and played well. Now, you can argue about whether you think he's better than Davis and why Conte picks Davis over him usually. But at the end of the day, like, it's a squad player, and he comes in and there's no discernible difference. And you can't say that for Sanchez when he comes in, and you can't say that for a couple of other players.
No,
so
100%.
Longley has been quietly a pretty damn good signing, even if it is on loan with no, to buy option or whatever. We look good. Like, Romero and Longley complement each other pretty well.
Yeah, do you agree with that, Jack? I think I do. I think Langley was a decent signing.
Yeah, you need, especially with Dyer in the middle, you need two center backs who are comfortable on the ball, who can advance, be progressive, pick pass. Because again, when you're playing two in the middle, your midfield, you need center backs who can find the forwards, and so both of them could do it. And I feel very comfortable with him. And I was always a big fan of the signing. I don't understand why people are so upset when he got signed. I thought it was a great idea.
Jack, it's because spending money equals quality. That's the obvious rule of life.
Right.
Did you not know that? Come on, Jack. Like, forget finding treasure from other people's trash. We didn't do that with Juventus. Now look at where they are.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, but you're right. Like, it is clear that Conte would have preferred Bastoni, but Longley for what he's given us for what the cost of his wages, pretty much
pretty good.
It's pretty good.
And he's experienced at that level.
Yeah, to me, it's like similar to the NFL, right? The NFL have this kind of salary cap business where good teams take advantage of other teams' mistakes, where they've spent too much money and they can't afford to keep everyone, so they have to let someone go. And that's kind of where Spurs kind of are. Like, we can't go out and buy the Bellinghams, the people who are going to make that next step, because other teams will come and get there. So we have to look for players that other teams maybe aren't using as well as they could. And Longley, Bentancur, Kulusevski, they have all come in and strengthened what we had, despite being considered, unwanted by their prior clubs.
That's a great shout, yeah. So obviously we got through that game. We got Sporting next, not next week, but the week after. So where's this leave us in the group now? Then, Jack, what you thinking? One win, scissors through.
One win. I think we were talking is that depending on the outcome of the other game, I think that gets us at least second, right? So I think we're through with 3 more points. But I don't see any reason why this team shouldn't take all 6. I mean, there's no reason to back off. Even from my point, you want to go into the knockout stage feeling good about your situation. So I don't see any reason why you don't pick up one more. You'll pick up a win next week at Sporting. The last game, I guess a draw would be fine, but I'd rather take 2 wins out of it. Just be very confident going in and knocking.
Yeah, go on. I'm not sure about how it works with goal difference or head to head, but I think it's head to head, right? And I think that if Spurs win next week, we've got 10, and we play Sporting. And if Marseille, they have to go to Frankfurt. But if Marseille win that game, they're on 9. And I think that means that we're the top 2. in whatever order, and then the final game basically decides who finishes first and second. Because I think that if Marseille win next week, Sporting can't catch them. They can catch them on points, but they can't catch them on head-to-head because Marseille beat them twice.
Right.
So I actually think that if Spurs and Marseille win their games, in the next time out in 2 weeks, we're both through, which is a pretty, considering we were second, but only had 4 points, and we weren't too sure what was going to happen tonight. One game later, we're one game away from guaranteed a place in the last 16, which, I mean, given the group that we had, that probably should have been a gimme, but still, we have to go out and do it.
We were all excited about the group we got.
Yeah.
So we've beaten Frankfurt. Now we're through. Sporting's the next game. Who do you think's been the better team out there? Because after we lost to Sporting, I think Sporting knocked it around a bit, but I didn't think they were a great team. I fancy us to beat them at home. I don't think there's a lot between them and Frankfurt.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like us and Marseille are the best two teams in the group.
Yep.
Because that Marseille game was tough. Until they had a player sent off, we didn't look like winning that first game.
No.
And even when they did have the player sent off, it was two headers in the last 15 minutes that won it for us. So even though Marseille lost their first two, because they got beat 3-0 by Frankfurt at home.
Yeah.
I feel like every team in this group is capable of of laying an egg, right?
Yeah.
And we should never have been beaten in Lisbon, but we were.
Yeah.
Right, and maybe Frankfurt shouldn't have been beaten at home by Sporting, but they were. It's like every team had that moment of what's going to happen. But I think now, to me, Spurs and Marseille are probably the best two teams, and they should be the two that go through. But it would be nice. It would be nice to go into. I wonder if it's possible that we go into the Marseille game where we know we're first, regardless. I wonder if that's possible. I don't know if it is, to be honest.
If it's a draw,
it would be nice.
If it's a draw, that means Marseille will have 7, won't they? And we'll have 10, and we've beaten Marseille. So would that count?
But Marseille would probably have to beat us by 3 to finish top, which you'd hope isn't going to happen. But this is Spurs.
Yep.
So Marseille away at Frankfurt.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's not going to be an easy game, is it? That's not a gimme for.
Frankfurt will have to win.
Yeah, Frankfurt will need to win. The crowd behind them as well.
Yeah.
So right then, HG, where are we going to finish in this group? Top or second?
That's good ending to that question. I think top. I think if we have to go to Marseille and get a result, whether it's a draw or whatever, I think we're good enough to do it. I know that Conte lost at Mura, but that was a different side. It wasn't anywhere near his best team. I think when Conte, if he goes there with a decent side, we are good enough to get whatever we need at Marseille. So I will say first. I'd like to see us top the group, and 2 wins would do it, but probably 4 points would be enough as well.
You backing that up, Jack?
Yeah, first. I think we go through first as long as we play 3-5-2 at Marseille.
That's a good shout.
Okay,
HG, you having that?
I mean, I want us to finish first. Yes, I'm taking this. Like the point that Gov's raising here. No. It's not like the World Cup, Gov. It will be a draw, completely separate draw. So if we finish top of the group, we'll play any of the teams who finish second, apart from our group and anyone that's English, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be a separate draw. But I was just looking at Group C, and that's the Barcelona Bayern Inter one. So I can imagine why he was a bit concerned. But no, it'll be a brand new draw, and we'll be sitting there hoping that we get Bruges. Do you know what I mean? Like if we finish second in the group, we'll want Bruges.
Yeah,
that would be a lovely last 16 tie. But
so HG, Jack's just said if we go to Marseille, need a result 3-5-2. What do you reckon?
I see 3-5. Like until Kulusevski's fit, I want to see 3-5-2. But Marseille, when they played us, they had that kind of Chelsea style where they have 2 attacking midfielders that play those kind of as the wide attackers. They don't really play it wide, and so in that case, I want a 3-5-2. And if that means Kulusevski doesn't play, then I'm okay with that. But I just feel that we have to be aware of what the other team is trying to do. We can't just say, I don't think we're good enough to go into every game and be like, you need to worry about us, and we don't even need to worry about you.
Right.
Like Marseille are good enough to beat us there in front of 60,000 rabid Frenchmen. Like the Spurs fans who go to that game will be
part of their ground shut down.
A lot. Sorry,
part of their ground shut down. Is it they banned fans?
A chunk of their fans. The last game. I think maybe it was the first game they had against Frankfurt. There was lots of trouble, and I had a feeling that the second home game they had against Sporting, they had that maybe even behind closed doors. I think it was almost shut. But I don't know about the last game, and you can imagine that UEFA don't want that for a deciding game. So if it gets that far, they'll want it to be. But yeah, it's not going to be a fun atmosphere for anyone who's Spurs related. The fans will be risking a lot, and the players will have to be on it. So you'd love to be Marseille Spurs. We play a nice boring 0-0. And we finish top, they finish second, everyone's happy.
Right.
That's a dream, sadly.
Yeah. I just hope we don't have to go there needing a result to qualify. As long as we've qualified, I think I'll be quite happy with that.
Yes, yeah. I mean, quite first or second. Like, obviously, first is preferable because you tend to get an easier game if nothing else. But there are a couple of groups like ours where whoever finishes first, you might think, I'm not that fussed. Like knowing Spurs, we could win the group and then end up getting like Atletico or whoever finishes second in that group and think, oh no, or we'll get either Inter, Barcelona, or Bayern, and you'll think it didn't matter.
Right.
But of course, like you want to win every game, right? So to me, yes, we want to win both and we want to finish first, and we'll take what comes when it comes. But winning against Sporting is the only thing that matters. Like, let's not get ahead too much.
So, Jack, if we do get through, anyone you'd like to avoid? Anyone you'd like in the draw?
Well, I mean, no, I don't actually. The games that make me nervous, if you do get Bruges, those are the games that make me nervous. When this team gets matched up against top quality, they really dig down deep. They're very disciplined. Yeah, it's not always exciting, but you think about these games that we play. Well, it was Liverpool last year, or City last year. I mean, I'm not afraid of playing anyone because I think the team's dialed in and they know their roles and they play effectively. It's these games against you think, okay, Bruges, great. We look at this group, and we say, oh, we're excited about the group, but yet here we are still kind of struggling through it. So I don't try to get in that pick an opponent because I don't think it works.
I will always want weaker opponents because I know Spurs, no matter who it is. I mean, your point is right. We drew Real Madrid and Borussia Dortmund in the group and we finished top, right? And we play really well. And then 1 year we get Leverkusen and Monaco. And
Donetsk, weren't it?
Yeah, I mean, basically this group, right? Again, right? Yeah. So as much as I wanted us to play Frankfurt, it wasn't because they were the easiest top seed. I mean, for me, it was a bit more personal, but still, I get it. We play AC Milan when they were half decent, and we go through 10, 12 years ago. Yeah. Like we tend to do better against good teams. I remember when we drew Leipzig before COVID. I jumped up and down in my classroom when I heard, because I knew it was I think the draw was going to be either Leipzig or Barcelona, and I was like, I want Leipzig. I don't want to play Barcelona. Yeah. And then it turned out the way it did because of injuries and whatever. But I just. Yeah, to get into the last 16 of the Champions League, that's where Spurs need to see themselves every season.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it is much more difficult to make the Champions League from England than it is to get to the last 16. That's clearly true. Yeah. But once you're in the Champions League, you've got to go as far as you can in it. Like that you have to see yourself as a top team that wants to progress as far as they can at everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've been going for just over an hour. We've had brilliant viewing figures tonight for what we've been doing. Jack, thanks for coming on, mate, making a cracking debut. Hopefully we'll get you back on the show at some point when you can get yourself on here. But have you enjoyed it?
I'm coming over for the Newcastle game. My daughter lives in London. My son is going to uni in Solent, Southampton. So I'm coming over. Newcastle game. I fly out next week, and I think I'm going to be on the preview show for Newcastle.
Oh, brilliant, mate! And hopefully, when you go to the ground, you can meet up with some of the guys at the.
Looking forward to it. I can't wait. Cannot wait.
Oh, brilliant, mate!
Thanks for sending 2 taxpayers or contributors to the UK economy in whatever way. That's really nice of you.
Fishing. I put 2 kids through university in England. And my daughter's now a teacher in London. She's teaching English literature and U.S. politics and government at a school in London. So yeah, I'm
fantastic.
Fantastic.
So you're coming to see Spurs and maybe visit the kids at the same time.
Well, since my son's coming to the game, I will visit him.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course, my daughter's got
But Spurs are the reason, is what I was getting at, right? Yeah. Okay. Good.
Absolutely.
And nice to see you rocking your cheese room merch, mate. Good man.
That's right. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Enjoyed it really.
No problem. And HG, obviously, thanks for coming on again, mate. Another good review show. I think a little bit different from last week.
It's certainly nicer when you win a game, right? It really is. Like, I know a lot of people thought we were kind of negative at the start, but we were talking about the start of the game when we went 1-0 down. Generally speaking, we're positive people, and tonight was really fun.
Yeah. And as always, boys, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you
Come
Spurs.
on, you Spurs.